Are you ready to get out?
Hey guys, welcome to our review of the Peavey 6505 mini head, little 20-watt monster we got here. We're gonna actually start off with the build quality like we usually do, hopefully. So first thing I'd like to say is that this thing is a sturdy, solid box of metal music.
Yeah, you could say that.
It's very sturdy. Obviously Peavey's fairly known for their build quality of being able to withstand road abuse for years on end, so this one hasn't changed much. It's just a smaller package than the 120.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's solid, sturdy as hell. The one thing though, I think the looks department fails a little bit. Obviously, you can't be too vague about your amps. It doesn't matter that much, but I don't understand why the Peavey logo and the model number are behind the grille. You never see a nice high-end car that has its fucking logo behind the grille, and it'd be much nicer if it was on front and you could actually see it properly, and it would just give it a little bit more depth as well. I think it's just weird that they put all of that behind there. And this area sometimes I find is a little bit crowded with the numbers on it. But aside from that, it's a very well-built amp, and I mean, it does its job, and as we'll get into later, it sounds really good too, so yeah.
I don't personally mind the looks of it. I think it looks interesting that everything's behind, but each their own in the looks department. The part that really matters is how it sounds, in both of our opinions, and probably in everyone's opinion should be.
Yeah.
If it sounds good, you could probably overlook the looks, especially for how fairly cheap it is, in my opinion. So the only thing I don't like about the looks is these disgusting white
Yeah,
clickers, but
fucking,
I don't mind the knobs or the numbers. It's just these, in my opinion. I would rather have like a little switch or something, but
yeah. It is very functional though. We do have two channels up front. We got your rhythm and lead, basically your cleans, your distortion, and both of those channels do a really good job, I think, in general. But yeah.
Yeah, it's got obviously an EQ and presence and resonance, especially. That's really something that most little 20-watt amps don't usually have. Most big amps do, but most little amps don't have that, and it's really nice because it helps you sculpt your tone even that much more, so it really helps. And it's got a reverb as well, a built-in reverb.
And the reverb's really nice too.
Yeah.
I was playing around with it, especially with the cleans and the distortion, and it works really well. It's got a nice clean sound to it, so yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. You just got your lead and your rhythm and some reverb.
Some crunchy, and some Brit crunch, and
yeah, you got your bright switch here.
Yeah.
And you got your crunch. Now, just a little bit about this, we might go further in. Bright is pretty much just enhances the high end a little bit.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, in my opinion. I don't know about what Ansgar thought about it. And then the crunch just makes it so it goes from more of like a rocky tone to actually got like just into the cusp of like metal, maybe metal territory when you start pushing the game a little more.
Or like some heavier rock kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, let's get into the features of the amp.
So the one feature we're going to start off with before we get to the back is the tube status indicator.
Yes. It's different than tube safety control from our previous review, but yeah, same thing.
So tube status indicator tells you the indication of how well your power tubes are doing. Now when you first start it up, it'll turn red, but when you actually go into on position for the standby, it'll go green to show you that your tubes are good. So yeah, that's a nice feature in my opinion. Nothing worse than playing and then you don't actually understand why your amp's like fizzing out or something. Sounds weird. Now you have a pretty easy indication of if your power tubes are going up.
Pretty standard, but let's flip this guy around.
Flip it around.
And I guess we'll just go probably just from left to right here. You've got, again, your power input and your fuse, which is, again, is easily accessible. If your fuse blows, if you need to replace it, boom, right there. Next up, we got the
power switch. So it goes from 20 watts to 5 to 1. Fairly simple. we might demonstrate that later in the test
Yeah.
to show you the difference in volume and maybe the compression of the
Yeah.
amp. And then we got I forget the term, but we got the speaker
Oh, for
cable.
the ohms?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
we got
reasons.
the ohms.
Yeah.
So it's got 16 ohms and 8 ohms. Like, brain fart, ladies and gentlemen.
And a headphone jack. Oh wait, no,
Yeah,
that's that
headphone
one.
jack's right there.
Anyways, getting into that section, yeah, we have the headphone jack because this amp has silent recording, so you can also listen to your playing without bothering everyone in the home.
So if
And-
1 watt isn't quiet enough for your roommates and stuff, or your spouse or whatever, you just enable that on, and then you're good to go. It won't hurt your amp or anything as long as you put that in.
It's got a speaker enabler and deabler.
Yeah.
Deabler, is that even the thing? Defeater. They call it the defeater.
The defeat.
So you can get rid of any harm to your speakers. And then you've got a mic out for DI, which they call their MSD system, which stands
Mic
for
simulated direct input
exactly that.
interface.
And a ground switch, so if there is any interference through your recordings or whatever, you can lift the ground if that's what's causing it. And going into the next part, we've got our loops and effects pedals.
Yeah, we got your send and effects. And then we also have, this is a cool feature in my opinion.
Yeah.
The foot switch can do rather 2 things. Rather it can be, the first one is the channel and boost. So rather you can switch from between channel 1 and channel 2 and then boost the signal if you want, which is very strange because the front doesn't give you ability to boost anything.
Yeah.
So you have to get the foot switch to get the boost. And then on the next one, it allows you to turn off the effects loop or turn off the reverb.
Yeah.
So if you are say you're playing a song where you like to have, or going in and out of the reverb, but you can't afford the reverb pedal with this little guy, then you can use that. Because like we said, the reverb is actually fairly nice. And then because
USB.
you want more than just your direct out, you got your USB.
Yeah, because the USB feature is actually pretty cool because if you don't have an audio interface with you, but you have a laptop, you can just go out from the USB directly into your laptop without an audio interface. So that's a pretty good feature to have, I think. So, yeah.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this is based on a 412.
Oh yeah, it does have a, speaker simulation, and yeah, I believe it's a 412, so. Anyways, that's wraps it up for the features, but let's get into what we think about the sound quality. So about the sound quality from the amp, it's again got 2 channels. We got our cleans, we got our lead channel, so they both do a very good job at super clean sounds for the most part, depending on how you use your volume pot on your guitar. And the distortion just flies off again, like it hits hard. It can definitely go from 0 to 100 to metal territory, like we previously talked about. So I thought they did a really good job with the 2 channels. There's also 3 pre-gain tubes in here, so preamp. So that might have something to do with it as well, but sound is pretty spectacular on that end for the distortion.
The thing that's nice is that the rhythm channel, I think before you turn on the crunch, it's really dynamic with how you turn the volume pot, like Ansgar said. So if you do want your rhythm channel to be a little more chunkier, but not in the clean territory, so you want to have almost like a 3 channel, and you're willing to actually manipulate your volume pot, in my personal opinion, that's where you get the best clean from the amp, is from manipulating your volume pot, because of the harmonics and stuff of the gain, make the clean sound really good, in my opinion. Okay. But it still sounds really good at 3 or 2. It's just, in my opinion, that's where it sounds really good.
And you have a little bit more options, like we kind of previously alluded to, because you've got your bright mode, and then also your crunch, so you can add a little bit more dynamics to your rhythm section that way too. And same goes for the lead, with playing around with the presence and the resonance. You can, like Sam said, sculpt your sound for the distortion and for the cleans. So they did a good job with that as well. It gives you a lot to play with.
The only thing is that since it is the only one EQ, you kind of have to sacrifice in certain areas if you do like switching a lot between the two channels, and if you like to play around with your volume pot to clean it up that way. So if you like a really scooped mid for like distortion or whatever, so get that like nice aggressive sound, but in your cleans you like it like that, you like the mid to pop out a lot, then
yeah, it's like any other shared EQ amp, like around this price range for a smaller amp. Unfortunately, you got one EQ to play with, but
it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the most part, I think me and Ansgar fairly like the sound of the amp. It's really good. It's obviously made mostly for metal, but compared to its 120 brother, they actually made the cleans actually usable in this amp, which is nice.
Yeah, and again, just like the HK Hughes and Kettner review that we did, that you can check out as well, this amp is very versatile. You can do just light rock, or even like rock some cleans, or you can use it for heavy metal. So especially for those wondering if this amp delivers with distortion and metal, it does.
You're
it does.
Gonna hear that soon.
Yeah, we're gonna have a sound test for you right after this. So let's get into that.
Yeah.
Woo!